During the normal day, it's just the normal priests, what we call the ordinary priests. They function on the outer court as well as in the holy place. They were always washing up their hands and feet, and this is another mystery. How can they keep clean when this is all sand floor and there are sandstorms in the desert and they're washing all the time? Every time they sacrifice, every time they prepare to go into the holy place, into the tabernacle. As I said earlier, the bread was changed once a week, but the incense and the menorah, these were tackled every morning and every evening. So the priests who functioned that day would burn incense in the morning and then come back in the evening and burn them again. The priests attached to this would change the wick, refill the oil in the morning and then in the evening. The ones who were responsible for the bread, not only did they get to change it only once a week, so that's not a lot of work, but they also get to eat it. You know, there are Sabbath-keeping Christians who believe that the best day for fasting is Shabbat. Now, these are people who never understood the sanctuary, because the one thing the priest could not do on Shabbat is fast. Sabbath-keeping Christians think it's a good time to fast on the Sabbath since they're not really working or doing anything. And if they feel a little weak or tired from the loss of energy, the loss of calories in their bodies, that's okay because it's only Shabbat, which defeats the entire purpose of Shabbat, because Shabbat is not to stop the necessities of life, but rather to stop the work of life. The high priest, this was the glory guy. There are two different depictions here, but I'll try to explain to you. His clothing. Inside, he wears a plain white robe, just like the normal priest. But above that, he wore a short kind of a skirt robe that was blue in color. But this robe was special. It had bells and pomegranate fixtures at the bottom. And whenever the priest or the high priest moved around, everybody could hear. Ancient Israel would know the presence of the high priest. They could hear the sound. So if the high priest was on duty and he was moving around, they would hear him, even if they could not actually see him. Now, above the blue robe is a kind of a half coat that hangs front and back, called an ephod, embroidered with pictures of nature and angels. And then he has a golden sash or belt. All of this reappear in Revelation, by the way. And then he has what we call the breastplate. It's basically just a leather pouch with 12 precious stones. What's interesting about these stones, when you compare the name list, they are the same stones that Ezekiel records with the creation of the earth. They are the same stones with the foundation of the New Jerusalem. And the number 12 clearly was told to Moses that it represented a different tribe of Israel. So whenever the high priest came into the sanctuary, he was carrying the nation on his chest. But the high priest also had two special stones. Some people believe they were mounted on his shoulders. Some believe they had special pockets inside his ephod. One was called the Urim, one was called the Thummim. These were the high priest's mobile phone. So if he had a question of God, he'd go into the sanctuary and he'd ask God that question. And if the Urim, which was on the right, lights up, that means God is saying yes. Of course, it was like a yes and no kind of question. If the Thummim, which was on the left, glows, then the answer from God is no. So for example, if the high priest comes into the presence of God and says, God, we need to fight our enemies. Should we go to war against the Philistines? So this was the first telecommunication system in the Bible. Now remember, the prophets had a different communication with God. God actually spoke into their minds. But the high priest had these two stones. And these stones tell us a lot about the work of the high priest. But the only time that he actually worked was in the Holy of Holies. One day, 1 year, one place. If the high priest went the wrong day into that Holy of Holies, he would instantly die. And so Leviticus records the death of two of Aaron's sons. And here's the sad thing about being priest. If a member of your family dies, you cannot go anywhere near the dead body. Simple lesson of the tabernacle, you cannot mix holy and unholy. You'll see more of that in the 4th session. That mixture is impossible. Aaron was told that he could not cry, he could not shed tears, He could not attend the funeral. He could not go near the body of his 2 dead sons, who were priests, but went in there with unauthorized fire, whatever that means, and got themselves killed.